This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
It is Thursday, the 4th of April, 2024. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. This is news to 6 a.m. on News Power Digital. A soldier who was hospitalized after he allegedly stepped in front of a moving bus in San Fernando on Tuesday is suspected by police of stabbing a woman earlier that day. The suspect of Chagonas is hospitalized under police guard. Police said the 20-year-old woman is also hospitalized with serious injuries. She was found in a vehicle near the Presa flyover in the early hours of Tuesday, bleeding from stab wounds. The woman told police there was an argument over a cell phone and she was stabbed and left in the vehicle. The incident involving the suspect occurred around 9:30 a.m. along Lady Hayes Avenue. Police were told in the vicinity of the walkover in Embarcadero, the suspect attempted to cross the roadway on the western side to the eastern side and allegedly walked into the pathway of the moving bus. Several eyewitnesses told the police that the pedestrian stood on the pavement for at least half an hour before he stepped on the street as the bus approached. Bystanders rushed to assist the victim as he fell in front of the bus upon impact. He was taken to the San Fernando General Hospital and hospitalized in stable condition. Officers of the San Fernando Police Station and Traffic Division responded and are continuing investigations. Arsonists set fire to a house in the HDC settlement of Exchange Lots, Couva, before daybreak yesterday. The fire killed one person and critically injured another and left two others with severe burns. Dead is Tyrone Foster, 25 years old. His uncle Lester Foster, 52, was burnt about 90% of his body. Foster's mother, Lorna, 53, and girlfriend Leila Ranjit Singh were also injured in the attack. Family lived at Ananyankaran Extension Exchange in Couva. Attorneys representing deceased inmate Sherman Brown said yesterday they'll be filing a civil case against the state after his autopsy revealed he died from multiple blunt force trauma to the head and body, which was inflicted during a fracas at a Port of Spain prison last week. Sadiq Manzano, one of three attorneys representing the family, said they're not too confident criminal proceedings will bring justice to the family. He is said to have received and died from over 1,000 blows. Two teenage girls from Rio Claro who went missing on Wednesday afternoon were found last night in an abandoned house. The two sisters and a cousin were found in a house located approximately 30 meters from where they were last seen at their sister's home in Dimalak Street off Waiguari Road. Leaders of the hunt and rescue search team, Valence Rambura, said the girls were spotted around 7:40 p.m. A villager saw movement in the house and raised an alarm. Relatives and members of the HSRT were nearby, responded and found the girls in the house. Rambura said the sisters and mother last saw them around 5:15 p.m. when the girls said they were going to wash clothing and went to the bathroom. Shortly after she looked for them, they could not be found. The grandfather of the sisters on Wednesday said the girls were last seen having a conversation on a cell phone. The Children's Authority of Trinidad and Tobago is in transition mode and is reviewing all aspects of its operations to ensure it's functioning more efficiently. Director and Chief Executive Officer Sheldon Cyrus made the disclosure while speaking at the 24th public hearing of the Joint Select Committee on Local Authorities, Service Commissions, and Statutory Authorities yesterday, Wednesday. The meeting inquired into the operations and adoption of the adoption unit of the Children's Authority, relating to the efficiency and effectiveness of the adoption procedures in Trinidad and Tobago. In news of the region, the government of Guyana read the Riot Act to stakeholders in the power sector over the continuing disruptions in supply and breakdown of equipment. Minister in Public Utilities and Works Deodas Inda told reporters at the United Airlines cocktail reception this week. Reps of the Guyana Power and Light Power Producers and Distributors Incorporated and Finnish company Wärtsilä will read the Riot Act over the ongoing problems. Inda said serious adjustments would be coming, but declined to say what exactly these would be. And finally, rescue efforts are underway in Taiwan after the 7.4 magnitude earthquake struck the island's eastern coast, killing at least 9 and injuring more than 900 other people. 127 people are trapped in collapsed tunnels in a mountainous road along the rugged coastline. The epicenter was 11 miles south of Hulin City, but strong tremors were felt all the way to the capital, Taipei, more than 100 kilometers away. It's the strongest earthquake to hit Taiwan in 25 years. And that is news to 6 a.m. right here on News Power Digital. We'll have major news coming your way at 7 a.m. Good morning.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
neighbors. It is Thursday. 4-4. That's right. The fourth day of the fourth month. That's right. 4th of April, 2024. So good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us on the Power Breakfast Show. Of course, the hours are in. We just heard from Super Paul Richards. We'll hear from Richard Ragoobarsingh. Wendell may join us. We've got Ruben and Shane in the mix. My name is Steve Khan. All right. Of course, no rain to drive through this morning. Ooh, that was a lot of rain yesterday. But good morning to you all. Good morning to you, Super Paul. You're muted. Yeah. Still muted. Still muted. He's yapping away.
Un momento. Buenos días. ¿Cómo estás?
Bien.
You feel I went central. It's what I went central there.
But they don't go central anymore. They're all over.
No, muy bien. De nada.
Yeah, all over. Well, thank you so much. Paul, see you in the office. Good morning. Good to see you. Let's see you, Santa's house thing this morning.
Esto en el trabajo ahora.
Radio.
Somebody go say I got Spanish this morning.
Well, it did run through my mind.
Buenos días, Zina. Buenos días, señorita Zina. Buenos días. ¿Cómo estás? Es mi mujer Zina. No, that is mujer is mother. No. Mi esposa, that is grandmother. Where's wife again in Spanish? I think it's mujer. Let me see. Keep talking. I'll forget that.
Bolachin. That's why. Bolachin. In English is... Anyway, let me not say. Anyway,
mi esposa. Sí, muy bien. Mi esposa. Mi esposa, Zina.
Anyway, let's say good morning. Good night to DJ Ray out in Tampa. Oliver Warren, good morning. Sasha out in London. Wayne B in Covington, Georgia. Garth Seeley in Valencia. How's Valencia this morning? Rainy? No? Rena Boodoo Jennings out in Pitti Valley. Good morning. DP, how art thou? Ray out in West Palm Beach, Florida. Marcia Rock out in Orlando. Wendy and James out in San Juan. Beefy Smith out in Goodwood, Tobago. Boy Bedesi, CJ New York. Slick Money Grip. Ewart Rajpal, Gloria Gray out in New Jersey. She says lots of rain in New Jersey. Yeah, we had 2 days of rain. Angelique Smith Passaram, good morning. Randy Kelly, good morning. Let's you send us on YouTube. A lot of messages here. GNC Auto Security. Dan Ranj out in Central Sankofa, good morning. Hope all is well. All right. Dan Ranj, what's your story with some fire up that side? You might know. Yeah, send me some facts on that. I got some images. John Cato, Sheree Jack, Ian Andrew Nawalo Lee, Randy Kelly, good morning. Yeah, that's who sent us hellos first thing this morning. And yeah, we got a lot of rain in the last couple of days. I wonder what he meant.
Beautiful. My plants
I love it. My plants are just going, yeah. Met Office is saying it's going to be a sunny and breezy conditions and will be interrupted by partly cloudy intervals with a few light to moderate showers.
First night I was able to walk last night in about 3 days.
Yeah.
And then right after I got home, the rains came.
Man, I saw some rain yesterday. It was sideways. It was sideways out in San Juan.
Sorry.
Oh, Lord. Here we go.
My apologies. I was doing
apology accepted.
Good morning, Richard.
Good morning, Richard.
Good morning to our listeners and viewers.
I was going to anxiety attack when I looked down at Steve in. My heart is actually going to Raceville. When I get a good morning, Paul.
There you go.
Never had that moment.
Anyway, kudos, to the I could never get this name right, huh? Hunters and Search Team.
Listen to me. That group, Violence Chambret, and I think they got a national award already, so?
I would love, I don't know.
think they did, they got a national award.
I think they got a
last-
national award
last
already,
year,
but
yeah.
let me tell you something. They should be training the police service.
Yeah, boy. No
Listen,
kidding.
They
No
are
kidding.
so efficient and committed and diligent, and let me tell you something. And the sense of self-sacrifice and commitment to country is absolutely astounding. Good. I mean, that balance and your team. I know we generally identify balance, but the rest of the team, no less commendations to you. Fantastic.
Yeah. And new members that come into that group, he trains them. They just don't come in, and Richard and Steve just don't come in and start looking. He trains them.
Nobody a track record is so outstanding.
Yeah, boy. So kudos in finding the two sisters and cousin, which is like an abandoned building next door, pretty much.
But it wasn't really far from where they originally were reported missing, which is the weird thing. Teenagers. You know what's surprising to me about that? And Richard could wait. I actually saw the Express, one of the newspapers, identify them by name and pictures, and they're minors.
Yeah, there was.
Is it because they're not in a sexually charged situation?
These were minors.
My understanding of the law is that they're minors. They're underage, under the age of 18.
No, and these are minors in regard to what story you're talking about.
They were reported missing by their family, and they were found last night.
Yeah, looking to see the.
So maybe if it's a sensitive situation, they can publish.
I don't think it's anything like the before the court or the subject of anything like that, because you'll have.
Why they were just protected overall?
No, because you have children at times, like if they did well in SE and stuff, they see the pictures. You see pictures of school children.
I guess it was a sensitive situation.
So I think it's more.
If it's something that means back them, they were just missing. So I guess that's why it's permissible. I just found, it's just so weird. So and anyway, I'm glad that they were found. They were found safe. So good job to
it is. And of course, so I'm actually watching another video that a listener sent here of that fire that I sent you, gentlemen. Yeah, that oneself. And they're saying that's the HSM car dealership out in Chase Village.
Very odd.
A lot of cars, though. Buildings on fire, too.
I don't know what's going on. Something weird is happening in the ether.
Wow.
There's an expensive fire.
Well, yeah. I've seen a couple of Teslas on fire. They're not cheap. Yeah, it certainly looks like arson when it comes to that.
It looks like some sort of arson attack.
Yeah.
And very, very weird. Speaking of arson attack, a man lost his life in an arson attack at an HDC complex in the last couple of days or so.
The weekend in Orapoon.
Well, in Couva.
Oh, there's Couva now.
This is in Couva, where Tyrone Foster, 25 years old, lost his life. Apparently, someone threw a Molotov cocktail into the apartment, and there were his mother was there, his girlfriend Lena Ranjit Singh was also injured, and his uncle Lester Foster, who was 52, was burned to over 90% of his body. So that's very, very serious. The other two, his girlfriend and mother, were escaped with minor to moderate injuries. Around 2:45 a.m., the arsonist came in, barricaded the exits of the house before setting it to fire. It's not like murder, Richard.
That is murder.
Yeah, the intent. That would be construed as murder.
Yeah. Could be basically
an action. Your intent may not have been to kill, but But the issue
What
of
is the
you
intent if you
barricading
block somebody now to
indicates an
protect their
intent too, because they barricaded the entrances and exits, not so?
Yeah.
That's what
The entrance and exit will be the same thing in a house, but they barricaded them, so that is an intent to kill. And
The family had been threatened several times according to reports.
so they should know. So the police should have a lot of information as to who is culpable, who are the presumed people to
But yeah,
question.
because they know who they received threats from, and they were survivors, fortunately. And when someone is burnt over 90% of the body, you can imagine the chances of survival. We hope he survives, but there's going to be a question mark over that.
When the threats reported to the police previously?
The report didn't say whether the threats were reported to police.
But that is a crazy story. I mean, it's one of the front page. Well, it is the front page news in one of the newspapers. Well, it's certainly all of them kind of. Well, two of them kind of deal with that story, and the other one, of course, is the issue of the prisoner who died and the autopsy results that said close to head. He was beaten to death. That's what the autopsy seems to suggest.
Yeah. Blunt force trauma consistent with a lot of defense wounds. The family hired Dr. Yvonne Devines as a private observer in the autopsy because, of course, they have no confidence in the state and in their ability to get justice, in their own words.
Yeah.
So they hired 3 attorneys representing, and they're going to file a civil suit against the state. And I think, and I fully agree with that. I know people are going to jump on the chat and he was at this and he attacked the officers. I'm sorry, these things are happening way too often, and unless the prisons commissioner can offer a reason why this man he died at the hands of clearly someone inside the prison, unless they want to suggest that the other inmates killed him, which to me seems unlikely. Multiple blunt force trauma to the head. You understand?
Yeah. No, so I mean, that obviously is going to make its way through the court system. What exactly are we watching?
Well, will it make it way through the court system?
Will it make it way through the court system if it is that the family sue?
In the civil arena?
In the
civil arena?
Well, the police are investigating. We have to see how that works out.
How
Police are investigating.
How does it usually work out?
Well, I wouldn't, forecast what the police are going to find.
I just think these things are very, very disturbing. Very highly disturbing. And I'm not saying
anytime an inmate dies, it's an issue for an investigation.
Of course.
It's also when somebody dies in police custody, it's also an issue for investigation too.
People need to understand.
Police shooting.
And police officers have been charged.
No, but I mean, there are incidents where people have died at the hands, for example, of police officers, and there are police officers before the court system with regard to those incidents.
Agreed.
What is it that we're watching here? What fire is this?
That is the fire. Where is it, Steve?
It's at Chase Village. It is the HSM car dealership.
Oh, I know that dealership. I've passed. Oh yeah, because I used to be in Chase Village quite a lot when I was filming my series, so I know it. Well, they have some really interesting cars on that compound.
Yeah, that white one there is a Tesla.
How come some cars are blazed and some cars not?
That's a question I can't answer.
You understand?
Yeah.
Well, this was earlier this morning, I assume.
Yeah, this happened overnight.
The hell.
And the situation where going back to the story where the arson attack resulted in the death of the 25-year-old. This is like the third HTC issue, and I'm not blaming HTC for this. You all do jump out yourself. I'm saying on an HTC compound in the last 2 weeks, last week. HTC is seemingly, and the minister, Camille Robinson, she said she's had conversations with the police and army about potentially providing security at HTC outlets. And we asked the question earlier this week. But clearly, there's some HTC outlets that need some sort of protection system in place.
Well, you have bullying. Obviously, you have bullying and stuff that goes on on some of those estates where some people feel they have more rights than others to do what they want. You've always heard those stories.
Mhm.
And the HDC had seemed prior, I mean, and historically powerless to deal with some of these people's complaints.
Mhm.
But you have that sort of thing where some people feel they're better than everybody else.
Well, there was a couple of years ago, I remember someone reaching out to me through a mutual friend, and she was complaining to me and what could be done because she lived in an HDC compound, and her neighbor consistently parks in her spot, which is in front of her house, and she told the individual, this is my parking spot, and he had like 4 cars or 5 cars, and he cussed her out, and it was a big issue. And he was a police officer.
Well, that's something that AGC should have dealt with.
Yeah, she went to the police, and one day she woke up, and she found a bullet on her banister, and that freaked her out.
And that should be dealt with decisively by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because that is an overt threat. And I know they will say, we don't know who will leave it there, but
yeah, that was
thorough investigation into that, because that is a very, very disturbing for somebody to experience.
Yeah.
But it takes a certain level of human being and bully to feel that you could take my parking spot when you know that is my parking spot.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and another thing, one day she came home, he was not home, she got to her parking spot, but he had so many cars and he wanted to get out and he couldn't move. So what he did, he took his car and pushed her car out of the way. People can't live like that.
Well, as Richard said earlier, in those housing estates and housing complexes, particularly state-owned, but not exclusive to state-owned, because I know in the private big shot ones there's a bacchanal to it.
Yeah.
You understand?
It does.
But the state housing estates, there is usually a level of conflict, particularly when they're very close together. And that's why what Richard always says, in other jurisdictions, they're very mindful of how they design those housing complexes and the density of population they put into them, because there's a lot of research papers on the tendency in some, and I'm not saying in Trinidad and Tobago, to develop an environment of potential criminality and potential conflict because of the how densely packed people are together when they really shouldn't be that densely packed together. It increases the likelihood of conflict because people just basically, in some cases, living on top of each other.
Pretty much.
Literally.
And then those urban design specialists, professionals, are very mindful of how they design particularly state housing complexes with a lot of spaces in between. So human beings, because when you put them close together, there's gone bad. Human beings generally. And a very strange story. A soldier was hospitalized after he allegedly, remember we spoke about this yesterday, stepped in front of a moving bus. People thought it was an accident, but they're beginning to suspect it may not necessarily have been an accident. He's implicated, or he's suspected of stabbing a woman earlier that day. The woman is under police guard. She said she and a gentleman, presumably him, had an argument about a cell phone. Typical couples and cell phones. Cell phones have caused so many problems in relationships in the last 20, 30 years. And she was stabbed and left in the car bleeding. Later on in the day at 9:30 a.m. along Lady Hayes Avenue, police were told that in the vicinity of the Embarcadero walkover, the suspect, presumably the soldier, stood up on the side of the road for about 30 minutes and then attempted to cross from the western to the eastern side and walked into the pathway of a bus. Eyewitnesses told police the pedestrian stood on the pavement for half an hour and stepped onto the street as the bus approached. Of course, the bus hit him. He fell to the ground. He was rushed to the San Fernando General Hospital, where he was in stable condition. Isn't that a very odd scenario?
Yeah, it's very strange.
I've raised this in Parliament over and over, and over and over and over, and over and over. And the answer is always the same, very nebulous, very condescending at times. about the availability of psychological counseling and testing to members of the armed forces in Trinidad and Tobago, particularly those who are involved in stressful situations. I raise it regarding police who are involved in high-risk operations, who are involved in shootouts with potential criminals, and whether they're debriefed as a matter of course. And they always say it's optional. It should not be optional. No one, well, a normal human being in my mind, it shouldn't be optional for you not to be psychologically debriefed after somebody shoot at you. Okay? Because you're going home into a home situation after somebody pelting bullets at you and you pursuing these supposed criminals. And they've always said it's optional. It shouldn't be optional. Imagine you in, for example, the high risk, the high stakes units in the police service, going into dangerous areas all the time and subjecting yourself as a matter of course for your job to these situations over and over, and no counseling, no debriefing. What do you think is the cumulative effect of that in your mind, your psyche?
I would include paramedics in that too.
But they always have the answer, well, it's available, it's not mandatory, it's optional. Well, it should be mandatory. I think every police officer, quite frankly, and every soldier and every Coast Guardsman should be subject to, if it's every 2 years or every 3 years, mandatory psychological debriefing.
I would go even annually.
And, you know, and I don't know.
Annually might be too onerous.
I don't
To
know.
make sure you're all right. I'm gonna tell you something. When I was
You're talking about thousands and thousands of people there, you know.
and it doesn't have to be every year.
And that's why I'm saying annual will be too onerous.
Yeah, it could be every 3 years, every 4 years. You understand? Just to make sure you're all right. When I was in the third year of my PhD, part of Andrew's requirement for you to finish the course of study, if it's 5 years or 6 years, is halfway through. I forget what is it called. I forget what it's called, but you have to go through a debriefing with your professors, who you have, and it's mandatory. What is it called, boy? I forget what it's called. Where they sit with you for an hour and they put you through a psychological debriefing to see how you're coping, if you're coping, if you need time off because it's a heavy workload, and if you fall short in that, you're not allowed to continue until you get counseling or you take some time off to make sure that you're okay in the course of study. That's how some universities think. Because you can't be teaching psychology and not practicing it, right?
True.
Yeah, and I remember that there are two of my colleagues who had to take 6 months off. You understand? Because they fell just on the borderline of being able to cope. And the psychological debriefing showed that they were under great, great stress. So they had to take 6 months off, and they were able to resume after that. You know? They readjusted their schedule and they on their way. So, I mean, I don't know.
Other news, the Coast Guard's guy who shot at the woman on Peter Avenue.
Look at the TC Defense was guy who on charges now, who allegedly killed one charges for the mother and the daughter. You understand? And the report said that he'd been under, what's the word? Probe for threats before and for issues within the marriage before. And allowed to have access to and walk out with a TT Defense Force weapon. So, I don't know.
But the Coast Guard man, he's been granted $175,000 bail to cover the charges that stem from allegedly shooting at two women in Woodbrook on Sunday afternoon. His name is Marlon Wiley, and he appeared virtually before Master Sierra de Silva and the North Court being Port of Spain yesterday. He was charged with 2 counts of shooting with intent and discharging a firearm within 40 yards of a public place.
And he doesn't seem to have known them, or did the article say that he knew them?
No, it doesn't say that. They said that at 12:50 p.m. on Sunday, the two victims, a 31-year-old and 27-year-old, were in a beige Suzuki Vitara SUV driving out of Alberto Street when they saw a man dressed in blue and white Muslim garb standing in the road. The man tried to stop the SUV, but the 31-year-old who was driving saw the man was waving a firearm, and she drove away from the scene. They then heard a series of loud explosions as the suspect allegedly gave chase and shot at the woman. The victims drove to the St. James police station and made a report. However, while giving the report, Wiley entered the station in regular clothing. He was stopped and questioned by the police, and well, the firearm that was found on him and 33 rounds of ammunition was seized. And the garb he was allegedly wearing also found and seized the garb he was allegedly wearing at the time of the shooting. Isn't that bizarre? It have some kind of water people drinking these days in Trinidad.
And that's why I said they need to be debriefed.
It's bizarre. You have one stepping in front of a bus. Now you have one who dress up as a Muslim and shooting.
Because it's stressful situations. Maybe they're under. Maybe the job is too much for
I don't know
them.
what the hell going on. But
Look, we deal with you every day.
And of course, you also have.
Would you like to share? Did you read the Express editorial today?
No, I didn't as yet. No.
Let me share it with the listeners. And the Express holds no brief for Gary Griffith. You understand? But it is titled, and this is the Express editorial published 6 hours ago. It is titled "New Heights of Emptiness."
Yeah.
And I quote, "As National Security Minister, Fitzgerald Hines has come to be defined by his wordy and meandering expositions and crime-related issues. On Tuesday, however, Mr. Hines reached new heights of vacuity when he called a news conference to cast blame on former Police Commissioner Gary Griffith for the scandal still unfolding with the Strategic Services Agency. In a somewhat bizarre performance, Minister Hines spent the better portion of his hour and a half exposition attacking Griffith, whom he repeatedly described as childish, and with complete lack of self-awareness, garrulous. For all that time, Hines made only one concrete accusation about the former commissioner, saying Griffith had made 4 military-type weapons available to the SSA before legislation was passed that allowed the agency to legally possess such firearms. Even if that was so, it is entirely irrelevant to the ongoing revelations about rogue elements in the agency whose personnel were appointed under the present administration headed by Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley and under Hines' watch. Yet Mr. Hines had nothing substantive to say about the issue, save that mistakes happen and one learns from this and rearranges affairs to ensure this does not happen again. Minister Hines began his diatribe by raising the 2021 kidnapping and murder of 23-year-old clerk Andrea Barrett, which drew national outrage, focusing on suspects Andrew Morris and Joel Balcon, who died while in police custody. Hines' main point that Griffith's actions were being investigated for his role in the deaths of Morris and Balcon. While we hold no brief for Mr. Griffith, this is a transparent attempt to demonize him and deflect from Hines' responsibility as National Security Minister and the SSA imbroglio. In this response to Hines' statement, Griffith argued that if he, as then police commissioner, was responsible for the deaths of prisoners, then so too should be the head of the prison service, the Coast Guard and Defense Force. However, this beside the point. The fact is that when the suspects died, Mr. Griffith claimed one had sustained fatal injuries by falling off a chair. The absurdity of this response and his apparent indifference to possible abuse of power by his underlings did not meet the professional standards expected of a COP. Be that as it may, Griffith said or did 3 years ago is irrelevant to the horrendous state of crime in Trinidad and Tobago today and the apparent threat posed to the nation by a security body with way too much power and insufficient oversight. Yet Mr. Hines segued effortlessly from the death of the suspect in the Andrea Barrett murder to the assertion that there are many, many questions to answer around all that has happened that took us to the point where we had to intervene and the threat with the SSA in a way with which we are now treating. At several points, Mr. Hines asserted it would be premature for him to reveal any actual information. If so, why call a news conference? By the end, the only thing Minister Hines had accomplished on Tuesday was to demonstrate once again his lack of any plan or policy to reduce crime in Trinidad and Tobago. Ooh.
Pretty biting editorial in terms of
Well, remember our poll asked the question, is it yesterday or the day before yesterday, about whether the press conference is politically motivated? And most people said, yes, they thought so.
Yeah,
Because, and I keep asking the question about the SSA in Brooklyn. What oversight mechanisms were there or are there in place when you give an agency that much power to spy on you and me under specific circumstances? What oversight was happening that all this that we're hearing in the public domain now was allowed to happen? And saying that when we put somebody in charge and mistakes were made is simply not good enough. It's simply not good enough. Inadequate. Highly problematic. Because if in that agency you could have this much happening, what may be happening in other state national security agencies that we don't know about?
Yep.
Yes, things I wish I could divulge. That's all I will say. There are things I wish I could divulge.
But before we get into the daily newspapers, they also had the issue of the Constitutional Reform Commission. Is it a commission that has been set up? Committee that has been set up by the current administration to hear. You can send in written submissions by April 15th, I think.
You're muted, Richard. You went muted for some reason. That poltergeist working by you is just jump up and want to silence you sometimes, you know. Maybe because we talk about SSA just now, that they press the button. And
are you hearing me now?
I am hearing you now.
Right, so the Constitutional Reform Committee, of course, you could have sent in your comments, or they have some ads running on the daily newspapers that say that you can send in your comments, I think by April.
And on television.
Right, but they're also holding in-person sessions, and they started off in Sangre Grande, and they're going to.
I'm going to the one on Friday. I hope to go to the one on Friday.
Yeah, but some of the suggestions that came out of that first meeting in Sangre Grande was the issue of the CCJ being the final court of appeal. Some people called for that, and one of the interesting things that I am totally in support of is getting rid of that damn stupid savings clause. That savings clause, I've said this before.
I understand it, but please explain what a savings clause is in the context of the colonial
masters. Savings clause, in other words, simply put, it's a part of our constitution, but it simply preserves all of the laws prior to 1962 that were on the books. It preserves them and their efficacy, even if they contradict the fundamental rights that are protected in sections 4 and 5. As a student doing law and as a constitutional student, I was always puzzled, why on earth did you include that savings clause? Because if you are a country moving into independence and you're saying these are the rights that we hold to be sacrosanct, then it means any laws that come against this is no longer part of our progression as an independent state. But yet you kept that backhand to colonial laws.
It's part of the umbilical cord that we refuse to want to sever totally.
Yeah, but which is kind of like an insecurity. It's how I read it.
And a lot of times
let the colonial law stand.
Remember when we became independent?
You know, it's
remember, Richard, they allowed us to become independent. We had to petition and ask, can we be independent, please? It didn't just happen just so you know. We had to go through a process and ask the colonial master. So basically, should I use the word owned us?
Yeah. Anyway,
so can we at least at some level run our own affairs? And then we had a Republican Constitution in 1976, which kept the saving clause
still
confusingly.
Still, it's like
bizarre. Okay, we are a republic now. We no longer bow to the Queen and the King.
But anyway, that was certainly one of the suggestions that I agreed with. I mean, I have to go through there's so many things that I think the Constitution, well, you know, I am one that does not believe that a Constitution should reference God. So I am that bandwagon. I think it should be very clear and secular in terms of how it sees how rights and the balancing of rights of states and citizens, the separation of powers, the basic fundamentals. I
Good
think
question
those
this
things should
morning.
be clear.
Should the Constitution reference God, or should God be removed
The
from the
preamble references it.
preamble reference?
Yeah.
The next one is coming up this Friday at City Hall in Port of Spain, and I actually want to attend it.
Okay, I think there was one in Point Fortin last night.
Sit and listen.
In Point Fortin last night. So maybe when they come to Arima, maybe I'll try and go and hear what's going on. I mean, I used to be much more passionate in my younger days about things like this. I remember writing a whole dissertation, Paul, on why the death penalty needs to be abolished, and submitted it to a member of parliament, you know, when they were having a debate.
Corey, I fully agree with what you said.
But now I'm like, you know what?
I think this is such a great point. I have believed this for a while. It was never intended for they begrudgingly granted us independence.
While both of you have valid points, the historical evidence is clear that the British had no intention of letting its mineral and resource-rich colonies exercise actual self-determination, and the savings clause was one measure by which they maintained control behind the scenes. I don't know if I agree with you, because the saving clause that didn't give any tangible benefit to England with regard to those resources. They still control the resources by the companies that took over, and then the companies that still invest in it are English-owned companies. So, and well, Dutch in terms of Shell, but BP has always been here. So, in terms of that mineral resource issue, but a lot of those other laws was laws that affected citizens that there was just no oversight and no administration and has ever felt it worth their while to deal with those what I call irritant laws. There's some stupid laws on those books, you know, that still exist and are the law. But, you know, it is what it is. But certainly the savings clause, if it's removed, will hold all laws against the standard of what is the protected rights under sections 4 and 5. But after all is said and done, and we go through this exercise, because there was an exercise like this that went on through the People's Partnership. So you would have had recommendations out of the People's Partnership with regard to constitutional reform. There were constitutional reform sessions. And I think
representative, what's the word? In local government as a result of that?
But that's just one aspect of it. But there were sessions held across the country where you had all of these. So what happened to all of that information? And two, it's like you're doing it again. And the only way you can have constitutional reform is for both parties to agree. Because if one doesn't agree, it ain't going nowhere. Yep. So to me, a constitutional reform committee has to be bipartisan. It has to be. If it does not start off being bipartisan, you're wasting people's time.
You have papers, I'm presuming.
Yes, I do. I'll start with the Daily Express for today. And today is Thursday, April 4th, 2024. Just in case you're just living your life and you just don't care what day and year it is, I'm telling you, it's April 4th, 2024. And the front page of the Daily Express today, fatal firebomb. Cougar man killed in arson attack at HDC home, which is what we referenced. Tears for the Tyrone, a friend of Tyrone Foster, who was killed yesterday in the arson attack at Anand Yanikaran Extension Exchange Lots, Cougar, cries outside the firebombed home. Terrible, terrible tragedy. You're so tired of hearing these kinds of things in Trinidad and Tobago. You know, it's autopsy. Prisoner died of blunt force trauma. And let CCJ be final court of appeal. All of this are headlines and sub-headlines on the front page of the Daily Express. On the back page, Sunil Super KKR win. Narayan looking to score more runs in IPL. and Taruba on schedule. I'm not so sure on schedule for what, but it's on schedule. ICC satisfied with BLCA World Cup preparations. So that's for the World Cup. Cricket World Cup, I assume. Trinidad and Tobago Newsday for today on the front page. John Public will die is the headline. Insufficient PPEs for officers, threats to end rescue efforts. 6 firemen collapse after searching burning house. So this, of course, is the fire services pushing back that they don't have the proper equipment and stuff.
Wow.
In terms of dealing with fires. 6 firemen collapse after searching burning house. The main picture is that of Blue Boy. Jumbo send-off superstar Austin Super Blue Lions sings during the funeral for popular Nutsman Keith Jumbo Martin on Wednesday at the Cook Reach All-Purpose Court. Second autopsy shows prisoner beaten to death. All of that is on the front page. Back page of the Newsday. Jamaica lose by 8 wickets in final game as TNT's under-15s end Rising Stars on a high. And Club Sando whip Phoenix 5-2. The Trinidad and Tobago Guardian. What did they go as the headline? I'll tell you now. Fatal blows to the head is the headline. Autopsy reveals cause of Port of Spain prison inmate's death. Was hit several times about body. Family's lawyers set to sue the state. Missing girls found safe. And there's a picture of the 3 girls. And TSTT's CEO has $49,000 monthly security bill. That's a sub-headline on the front page of The Guardian. And on the back page, Pan Am cyclist miss medal. And the main pictures of Manchester City's Julian Alvarez as he attempts a shot at goal as Aston Villa's Clement Lenglet. Is that how you pronounce that? Or Lenglet. Watches during an English Premier League football match against Aston Villa at the Etihad Stadium in Manchester, in England. And that's it for 3 dailies.
Before we go to the poll, let me just share a promo of an upcoming program.
TNT has issues, and Power 102 Digital invites you to discuss the big issues facing Trinidad and Tobago on Hard Talk. Mondays to Fridays, 4 to 6 p.m. Join Karen Younes Teixeira and Denise Deming on Mondays with special guests. Join the discussion on the future of our economy with economist Marla Dukaran, Monday, April 8th. Property tax is not going away with Dr. Sunan Lalu on Monday, April 15th. And Fact, Fiction, and the future of energy in TNT on Monday, April 22nd with Kevin Ramnarine. Join Karen Younes Teixeira and Denise Deming Mondays on Hard Talk, right here on Power 102 Digital. TNT has issues and...
Right, that's it. So join them on Monday. They'll have economist Dr. Marla Dukaran. She's a very good economist on the future of TNT's economy. That's coming up Monday, right here, 4 to 6 on Power 102 Digital. So what's the question this morning? I have a question that Richard referenced to. I don't know.
Let me come up with that. Let's get the results from our poll from yesterday, where we asked you, do you think the press conference hosted by the Ministry of National Security on Tuesday was politically motivated? That was our poll yesterday. Results are in. 73% said yes. All right. And let me just say a hello to a few people that messaged us this morning. Michael Robinson out in Yokohama, Japan. Ambrose Blah, good morning. Brenda Isaac, Nasser Mohammed saying sun in Rio Claro. Gregory Bauer out in Dubai. Good morning to you, Gregory. Trinity in Boston. Herder Wells, Yolanda Cordner, Kyle Cupid, Finbar Collins, Andre, Beauty Culture, Listra Lodge, good morning. A. Corey Jilks, good morning to you as well. We have from St. Lucia, Derek Parsons, good morning to Derek Hopewell as well. He sent me a message this morning where some folks from the U.S. came and bought a hotel in St. Lucia, and they cordoned off the beach and said it's private property, and the St. Lucians did not like it, and they made a big protest. They went down to the beach and had a big protest. Good morning to Good morning to you, and Josie Richardson. All right, let's get our poll.
Well, it follows the discussion we were having regarding the Constitutional Reform Committee's meetings. Gideon Richards suggested that, in his opinion, the reference to God in the preamble of our Constitution be removed. I guess it's in keeping with separation of church and state. Ragoobarsingh?
Yes.
Right? So my suggestion for the question is, should the reference to God in the preamble to our Constitution be removed? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Good morning, Leonard Naipaul.
I have Bonoloy. I'm going to take out God of the Constitution now. Heathens. Heathen. Ragoobarsingh, heathen. Can you say a Catholic heathen? Is that oxymoron?
No, you could be religious and agree that the Constitution should be completely secular. You could be religious and support that.
To talk.
That the Constitution should be secular.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting votes already. So
all right, so 222 talk, 222-8255, North Americans 866-525-1099. People on the web and app, you know what to do. Send your comments and votes via the messaging portals there. And of course, you can also WhatsApp us at 868-318-1021. Our poll this morning: should the reference to God in the preamble to our Constitution be removed? Who do we start with, Paul? Christopher Batson says no. Who?
No, sorry, 2 days with Steve.
Boy Badesi says no. Beauty Culture says no. Yeah. We'll have to wait for Steve to come back to give us the other votes on WhatsApp, etc. Was that him shuffling behind you, Paul?
Yes.
Yes.
He came up on the screen.
All right. We got Grandy on the line, so let's go to Grandy. Morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. Grandy, yes.
All right. Thank you, Grandy. Have a good one. Stay dry. In fact, it should be a dry day. All right. So you did all the votes via YouTube and Facebook. Thank you so much, Richie Rich. 222-8255. Toll free. North Americans 866-525-1099. Good morning, caller. Good morning.
Good morning, no.
All right, thank you, San Fernando. Should the reference to God in the preamble to our Constitution be removed? Anne-Marie says no. Thank you, Anne-Marie. Ish out in Malik says no. Lester Craigwell says no. Did you do Beauty Culture? Saying no. And Josie Richardson. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. I believe Devil say yes. I say no.
All right. Leonard Naipaul. No. Thank you, Leonard. All right. 222-8255. Call us. Of course, Facebook, YouTube. You can message your vote. Yes or no. Should the reference to God in the preamble to our Constitution be removed? Right. That's our poll. Carrie Goddard says yes. Hector, no. Lennon Roberts, no way. You should say Jose. No way, Jose. Lester Craigwell is saying yes. Ewart Rajpal is saying no. Okay, WhatsApp as well, 318-1021. Or call us. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. Absolutely not.
All right, thank you. Ewart Rod. Oh no, I did that. Julia S. Batiste says no. Michael Robinson out in Japan. How are your friends doing, Michael? Tell him I said hi. He says no. All right. Paul, you ready for me to come over? he's still studying there. All right, and more votes here. No, nothing here. All right.
You're hearing me, and I'm talking all the time, you know. Something is going on with my mic this morning. I don't know what it is. Anyway, 222 talk, 222-8255.
It's tapped. Brian says no to the poll via WhatsApp. Thank you so much. Susie B. Susie B. says no.
So our poll this morning: should the reference to God in the preamble to our Constitution be removed? That's our poll this morning. 222 talk, 222-8255. North Americans 866-525-1099. People on the web and streaming and stuff, you can send your votes via the comment section. And of course, you can also vote via WhatsApp at 868-318-102.
Everything I wasn't digging my nose, this camera following my ass.
Well, Steve has disappeared again, so I could only see what votes are in the comment section here. Susie B, we got that already. Evet CPO says no.
This camera's scary. So our question this morning: should the reference to God in the preamble to our Constitution be removed, as is espoused by Richard Ragoobarsingh?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right, we have a call. Good morning.
That was raised actually at the last constitutional.
Good morning from Georgia. No.
You're not the only person who thinks that way.
Georgia says no.
Yeah, but I'm clear on how I see that. I don't think there's a place for religion in a secular constitution. You could guarantee freedom of religion. I agree with that, but it shouldn't interface with anything else. But that's just my opinion.
What you're entitled to, like every other sensible citizen.
Esther Adams says no. I don't know if you have any on WhatsApp, Steve.
No, nothing yet.
So you can vote via WhatsApp too at 868-318-1021, and of course via well, that's the only other thing besides calling to talk 222-8255. North Americans 866-525-1099, and of course sending your votes via the comment section.
Let's grab this call. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, I will say yes on that.
All right. Thank you. All right. As we set up for the news.
So just in a calypso. You understand, Steve? We could take it.
I didn't hear what you said.
Ansel Roger sang a calypso. Never sang it for you, Steve.
Oh, yes, yes.
Ansel Roger sang a calypso.
Yeah, he's talking to Stalin and tell Stalin to some more people to bun. You can imagine who you want to bun.
All right. So let's get into our 7 o'clock major news. Do we have any more votes coming in before we go? Let me just check. Oh, I have a couple on.
Okay. I didn't. Anand Rampasad, I didn't get. He says yes.
All right. Anand Rampasad.
Royalty Forever says no.
No, Anand Rampasad on WhatsApp says yes. Okay, there you go. Right. I have Terry on WhatsApp saying no to the poll. Thank you for dating it, Terry. Well done. All right, let's get into our 7 o'clock major news, read by Super Paul.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
This is major news to 7 a.m. First, the headlines: a soldier who was hospitalized after he allegedly stepped in front of a moving bus on Tuesday in San Fernando. A man dies in an HTC building fire in Couva. Missing girls are found. Children's Authority goes into transition mode, and stakeholders in Guyana's power sector are told to step up. We have details coming up next. This is major news to 7 a.m. right here on News Power Digital. Our newscast is compiled by Dennis James. Good morning. A soldier who was hospitalized after he allegedly stepped in front of a moving bus in San Fernando on Tuesday is suspected by police of stabbing a woman earlier that day. The suspect of Chaguanas is hospitalized under police guard. Police said the 20-year-old woman is also hospitalized with serious injuries. She was found in a vehicle in the near the Presal flyover in the early hours of Tuesday, bleeding from stab wounds. Police were told there was an argument over a cell phone, and she was stabbed and left in the vehicle. The incident involving the suspect occurred around 9:30 a.m. along Lady Hayes Avenue. Police were told in the vicinity of the walkover in Embakade, the suspect attempted to cross the roadway from the western to eastern side and allegedly walked into the pathway of a bus. Several eyewitnesses told the police the pedestrian stood on the pavement for at least 30 minutes before he stepped onto the street as the bus approached. Bystanders rushed to assist the victim as he fell in front of the bus upon impact. He was taken to the San Fernando General Hospital and hospitalized in stable condition. Officers at the San Fernando Police Station and Traffic Division responded and are continuing investigations. Attorneys representing deceased inmate Sherlyn Brown said yesterday they'll be filing a civil suit against the state after his autopsy revealed he died from multiple blunt force trauma to the head and body, which were inflicted during a fracas in the Port of Spain prison last week. Sadiq Manzano, one of 3 attorneys representing 4 of the 6 inmates involved in Tuesday's fracas, said they are not confident in the criminal proceedings that will bring justice for the family. Manzano, along with Alexa Romero and Lumel Murphy, are seeking the interests of the inmates who suffered broken limbs during the fracas with prison officers at the facility last week. Pathologist Dr. Hugh Von Devines was hired by the relatives of Brown to witness the autopsy at the Forensic Sciences Center in St. James. Brief indications were made that Mr. Brown died as a result of blunt force trauma injuries to the head and about the body. It's the second time Dr. Devines had to witness an autopsy for attorneys. Last October, another of their clients, Emmanuel Joseph, died while in custody after he was charged with the attempted murder of Deputy Prison Commissioner Sherwin Bruce. Brown's autopsy was witnessed by a prison officer and a police officer assigned to the Homicide Bureau. The Housing Development Corporation confirms the death of 25-year-old man in a fire which took place at Unit A Building 27 and in Yankaran Extension Village in Hoover on Wednesday. The HDC understands the fire started at around 2:30 a.m. Lorna Foster, the main occupant of the unit, her brother and son and a friend of her son were at home when the fire occurred. Residents were alerted to the fire and informed the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Service, who arrived at the scene and attempted to rescue the victims. Ms. Foster, her brother and son's friend escaped the blaze with varying degrees of burns about their body and were taken to hospital for treatment. Ms. Foster's 25-year-old son died in the fire. While the cause of the fire is yet to be determined, the HCC understands the duplex unit was destroyed. The HCC will conduct checks to determine the extent of the damage of the building, including water damage in adjacent units. There are also reports that the unit was barricaded and a Molotov cocktail thrown into the unit. Investigations are continuing. A suggestion is put forward for consideration to be given to possibly introduce sanctions and fines for state companies which fail to submit their audited financial reports in a timely manner. The proposal coming from Chairman of the Public Accounts Enterprise Committee, Senator Wade Mark, on Wednesday. He was speaking during an examination of the audited accounts, balance sheets, and other financial statements of the Trinidad and Tobago National Petroleum Marketing Company Limited, its subsidiaries for fiscal years 2018 and 2019. Mark says taxpayers' money is being spent and there's need to ensure the population is informed during the required time frame and how much money is spent, what it's spent on, and did the nation get value for the expenditure.
I am wondering if the time has not come for us to recommend a change of the law, because I feel that if this thing carried penalties and sanctions in terms of fine, in terms of confinement, we would get our reports on time and nobody will give you that feeble excuse that you have to wait in turn and wait in line.
The committee was told by NP's General Manager, Finance, ICT, and Supply Chain, Joy John Benjamin, the various reasons for the delay in the submission of reports 2019 and 2020, one of which was the issuing of new requirements which now had to be met.
March 2019, we experienced a 2-year delay. Reason being the adoption of new accounting standards, IFRS 9 and 15. These standards require a lot of analysis, precision papers. Some companies sought to use consultants to do in the essence of course. And for our knowledge, we opt to execute this adoption on our own.
The Children's Authority of Trinidad and Tobago is in transition mode and is reviewing all aspects of its operations to ensure it functions more efficiently. It is a specialized agency with responsibility for the care and protection of children, especially those who are at risk, who have been victims of abuse and/or neglect. The authority advocates for the rights of children and encourages and supports them to enjoy their childhood. $100 million was allocated by the government to the authority this fiscal. Last year, that figure was $132 million. Director and Chief Executive Officer Sheldon Cyrus told the 24th public hearing of the JSC local authorities, service commissions, and statutory authorities, including the THA, $150 million was requested in 2023. The meeting inquired into the operations of the adoption unit of the Children's Authority, relating to the efficiency and effectiveness of the adoption procedures in the country. Mr. Cyrus gave the reasoning behind the new structure being ventured into at this time.
So we are at a point of transitioning the organization into a new structure. And if you notice, we did provide the current structure as compared to the new structure. So we are in the process of going through a review of all our operations, and we will be transitioning during the course of this fiscal year into that new structure that you see there.
The opposition UNC wants the investigation into the cyber attack at state-owned TSTT to be made public, tabled in Parliament, and sent before GSC for probing when it is completed. Member of Parliament for Princess Town, Barry Patherath, made the appeal while speaking during a news briefing yesterday. He claimed last month Public Utilities Minister Marvin Gonzalez says the probe into the development should have been completed by March 2024. However, MP Patherath said to date no update has been given by the line minister on the issue. He said due to the seriousness of this matter, the time has come for the nation to be informed of the facts.
The report that has been promised into the investigation in terms of the aftermath of TSTT's cyber attack must now be made public. It must be tabled in the Parliament of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago and sent to the Joint Select Committee for probing. The contents of that report must now be tabled in the Parliament for the public to see, but more importantly, it must be sent as part of the proceedings of the Joint Select Committee so that the Joint Select Committee can determine and call witnesses and call persons named in that report, including the Minister of Public Utilities.
Patherath also had questions surrounding terms of reference under which the probe was conducted.
The minister then told the population, and it was reported on March 3rd in the Trinidad Express, that he was appointing an investigator. Several questions have arisen from that appointment. One, which the minister has not provided and placed in the public space. Those questions are: one, who was the investigator? Two, what were the terms of reference for the investigation? And three, who selected and how did they go about selecting this investigator?
Scrap and halt is the approach the UNC wants government to adopt concerning the introduction of property tax at this time. Opposition Senator Jayanti Lakshmi Dayal questioned whether citizens are getting improved quality services in areas including infrastructural development, national security, and better roads. She admitted the economic situation at this time is not encouraging, and many citizens are feeling the effects of the rising cost of living. These are issues she's claiming should be treated with a sense of urgency before bringing property tax.
We are opposed at this time to the collection of property tax, not just because of the economic circumstances, but because of the discrepancies raised by citizens in the valuation process and the collection process. We are demanding of the government today that this entire process be scrapped, halted, and a proper valuation exercise be undertaken before taxes are collected from citizens. Anything less than that is a form of tyranny opposed on the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago.
Dutch media also claimed the present evaluation process is flawed, inconsistent, and lacks clarity.
I'm certain that people abroad who pay taxes, and I've done quite a bit of research into the level of accountability and transparency that exists when you look at the councils in the United Kingdom, when you look at the various counties in the United States where taxes are paid, you see every single year the breakdown of your taxes and how much of it, what percentage goes into school districts, fire services, police departments, and other types of infrastructural developments and all of those things.
On to news of the region, the government of Guyana has read the Riot Act to stakeholders in the power sector over continuing disruptions in supply and breakdown of equipment. Minister in the Ministry of Public Works, Deodath Inda, told reporters at a United Airlines cocktail reception this week that reps of the Guyana Power and Light Power Producers and Distributors Incorporated and the Finnish company Wärtsilä will read the Riot Act over ongoing power problems in the country. Inda said that serious adjustments would be coming, but declined to say exactly what these would be. And finally, rescue efforts are underway in Taiwan after a 7.4 magnitude earthquake struck the island's eastern coast, killing at least 9 people and injuring more than 900 others. Some 127 people are said to be trapped in collapsed tunnels on a mountainous road near the rugged coastline. The epicenter was 11 miles south of Hualien City, with strong tremors felt all the way to the capital, Taipei, more than 100 kilometers away. It's the strongest quake to hit Taiwan in 25 years. Trinidad newscaster 7 here are the headlines once again. A soldier who was hospitalized after he allegedly stepped in front of a moving bus in San Fernando on Tuesday. A man dies in an HTC building in a building complex in Couva. 3 missing girls are found. Sanctions and fines to be imposed on or suggested to impose on state entities who submit late audited financials. The opposition wants TSTT's cybersecurity probe made public when completed, and rescue efforts continue after 900 injured and 9 killed in a Taiwan earthquake earlier this week. That is news to 7 a.m. right here on News Power Digital. We'll have headlines coming up again at 8 a.m. with major news at 12 noon.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
All right, thank you, Super Paul, Dr. Paul Richards, for our major news. Thank you so much. Of course, he'll come back at 8 o'clock for our news brief. Quickly taking a look what's happening weather-wise. It is 28 degrees at Piarco International Airport, 27 at Crown Point in Tobago. The Met Office is saying today is going to be sunny and breezy conditions. Will be interrupted by partly cloudy intervals with few light to moderate showers. This evening will be mostly fair and hazy. All right, so that's your weather forecast. And let's see quickly, traffic-wise. Nothing in South, nothing really on the Solo. Just go to Chase Village, Santa Rosa to O'Meara Road. You've got some traffic there. Going to Aruca by Rima Old Road. Got it. Trin City towards Yui. Little stop and go, but you're moving as well. And then after Yui, straight up towards Swim Call and Beetham is where you're going to get in traffic. Nothing out to the west. Eastern Main Road vicinity from St. Joseph to Mount Hope. You've got some volume there. All right, so not too bad at all. I've got today and tomorrow, Friday, and then school reopens on Monday. All right, getting back before our guest gets in, we've got some more votes. Richie Rich. We have Royalty Forever saying no. Good morning, Nikisha Pierre, Lester Craigwell, Dave Singh. I got no votes there. I think some came up on WhatsApp. Eve, morning, Eve, out in Sugar Guanas. Eve says no. All right, so that's the votes. Let's get the results.
There you go.
And let me wheel. And where did he go? Richie Rich. Dan Raj says no. Thanks, Dan Raj.
Where am gone?
Gary, where did he go?
You mean you don't have access to spyware?
No comments.
This again blames everything these days. Maybe you the way he gone.
It was an act. It's an act of God.
Sorry.
You get rid of the man.
You all hearing me now?
Yes, yes.
Did you get all my votes?
Yeah, I think it was just 2 additional no's that you gave, not so?
And Dan Rad says no.
Yeah, I think it was 2 additional no's for a total of 29 votes in all in terms of it.
Trinidad and Tobago, a land so diverse, where cultures and faiths all freely emerge.
Ready?
The Constitution.
Where is coming from? Where's Ragoobarsingh?
By a reference to God should not always be. Oh, let's keep it secular.
Can you get the results? You went to write that song.
Let it always shine in our Constitution for every soul assigned.
Thank
So
you,
that
Richard.
is just that's just to contextualize it. Why, of course, the majority of people in the poll this morning are wrong. Our poll this morning is should the reference to God in the preamble to our Constitution be removed? We had 24 people saying no, and we had 5 people who are extremely sensible who said yes. And that was the song that AI created that said, yes, I agree with you, Richard. The Constitution should be secular. Now on to our interview with our very welcome guest, Gary Griffith. You're well making news these days.
Yeah, boy.
Will you care to answer the poll question, sir?
No.
You don't want to answer it? But he aspiring to lead the country.
I know, but I just see the question here, and I'm hearing Richard. Right, I would love to hear Richard's view on it before I make a comment, because it's something
I just think, while I think, Gary, I think the Constitution should protect your freedom of religion, and that should be protected, that whoever you want to believe in, you should be able to believe in. And yes. I totally believe that that should be protected. But I do not believe that the preamble should reference that this Constitution is based on God or anything like that. I think the Constitution itself should be secular, putting religion in its place as a protected enclave in terms of a right to it, but that God and the recognition of a supremacy of a God in terms of guiding the Constitution, I don't think should be there. I think it should be secular. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, and that's why I think how the question is set. If it is that people look at it from that perspective, they will agree. But then I think most of the persons who will say yes, it should be, is from a generalized perspective of you should have some God that should be there towards guiding us as a country. So it's not a matter of right or wrong. It's a matter of how you perceive the question to be. A politically correct answer,
but so take win.
Can you give us a yes or no, please? Based on how you perceive the question.
I agree with both.
Both points of views are valid.
Yes, agreed.
Before we get in this substantive topic, we had your very, very close friend, Philip Alexander, on a week and a half ago, who indicated that a ceasefire has been broken between yourself and him. Do you have any idea what it is about?
No, I don't. Good morning, everyone. I never had a war in the first place with my only political opponent would have been who I want to replace. So if it is that he had a war with me, I wasn't firing any scuds. So there was never any concern that I had. If you notice, I never had anything to say about, and that's why I find it was amazing. People kept saying, both of you all need to stop. But I was never saying anything. It's like, right. A neighbor throwing stones on your roof and the other neighbors telling you, the both of you all need to stop it. I say, but I'm not doing anything. They say, but the noise hitting your roof bothering me to sleep. We never had anything to say. We have never been involved. Why would I want to be involved in attacking another political party that I do not want to replace? My job is to target somebody who I want to replace. And that is what politics is about. My job is not to to fight for a bronze medal. I'm fighting for gold. So my concept has always been working and communicating and having debates with the political party who I want to replace.
Right. So I want to have this. I have this idea in my mind. I want to have you and Philip on next week sometime together. Would that be possible with you?
It depends on what the topic is. If the topic is
politics in Trinidad and Tobago, what the topic will be? Bread?
I don't know. It could be SSA.
Could be God.
Philip is not an expert on SSA. Anyway, I'll call both of you offline. Congratulations. I see you've announced St. Joseph. Why St. Joseph?
Well, why not? I spent half of my life in St. Joseph. I have been the nominated on 3 occasions by a political party in two of those whilst in government to be the candidate for St. Joseph in 2007. In fact, for 2 years, I was actually the shadow member of parliament on behalf of Jerry Etming when he was the member of parliament, because I was earmarked to replace him in 2007, and then they had the COP breakaway with the UNC. 2013, I was supposed to be the candidate. 2015, I would have been the candidate as well. So I know a lot about St. Joseph, and then more importantly, who in St. Joseph wins the election? That's the cut and trust. That has basically been the avenue that is the place that you win that seat, and that's it. So me going into St. Joseph, that's why automatically Terence Singh started to become an opera singer. Press conferences started coming out with a prime minister in Ireland giving a call to send 2 ministers to attack Gary Griffith for 90 minutes. So obviously the panic button has been pressed. And in the eyes of the PNM, they're saying, okay, so we have 22 seats. That's 1 down now, 1 more to go.
Is it that you, Minister Singh, really won that seat by a very slim margin against a very pretty unknown Aloy Likwa at the time? Is it that strategically you see it as an easier seat to win?
Well, no, definitely not. It's a marginal seat. But as I said, there are persons within that area that will know a lot about St. Joseph. The same Aloy Hunt was my batch, and I joined the military together. So I will work alongside all of these individuals, not just to win St. Joseph, but to fix St. Joseph. So it is not a case of looking for the easiest seat. It is the most critical seat to win. You win St. Joseph, on most occasions, it becomes a flip over to win Tunapuna, Lupino Bonaire. And along that line, I think really and truly, I have seen St. Joseph as being that bastard constituency where what has happened for the last 9 years.
I am St. Joseph. Me in a bastard community.
No, listen, let me finish. Seen at the eyes of a member of parliament where you fight to win the seat and then you ignore them, sideline them, and you do not serve them. So my point is, if this constituency is so critical, you don't try to show your importance to win the seat, and then for 9 years, you disown the seat. So,
well, Gary, if I could intervene, since we have a constituent here who just proclaimed he's a constituent, did you feel that you were ignored? Dr. Richards just said he's a constituent.
Yeah. Well, and definitely.
Were you ignored, Paul? Were you ignored? Oh. Do you feel that the constituency was ignored?
Gary Griffith is the guest.
I know he was going to be that. You can't put Paul in a situation like that. The man is a senator.
I'm not going to say that.
So, taking away Paul, almost every other person in St. Joseph, they have been sidelined. And one of the main reasons for that, gentlemen, it has to do with a serious issue that I've always seen in our politics. 41 persons go up as candidates to be a member of parliament, which really and truly is supposed to be the highest qualified councillor. That's basically what it should be. And then when you win 22, 19 or whatever, 15, 16, 17 of you all become ministers. They spend 4 to 5 days for that week in that ministry because you have your Prado, you have your salute, you have your massive staff, and you ignore the little wooden shed that you have known as a ministry, as a member of parliament. And you spend 2 hours every Wednesday to try to deal with something that people put you there expecting you to be serving them 168 hours a week. And that is my concern, because the ministers, they forget who put them there. It would be so good if one day we could have we talk about constitutional reform. Persons who are appointed as members of parliament stay in your constituency and serve. And that has always been the problem.
Terence Singh has won that seat on 3 occasions. A by-election, which he won in 2013, I think. He also won in 2015, and 2020. So though it is a marginal, you're correct about that, he won consistently 3 times.
Yes, that was against Ian Allen, Bassan Barrett, and Colonel Aloy Hunt. And again, there will be certain differences that you will see at this time. I mean, not apart from myself, Gary Griffith, is not just about the candidate, but it's about the maths. The maths is that when you have a third party that can possibly work in an alignment with another party, it will always speak annihilation for the PNM, especially in St. Joseph. So, and you'd have seen it in 1986, you'd have seen it in 2010. And again, it would have been a safer seat for the UNC pre-2010, but then the EBC somehow decided to find a way and took 2 of the polling districts from St. Anne's, shifted to St. Joseph, and those were PNM safe areas, and then took 2 UNC areas and conveniently decided to shift it across to St. Augustine. These things happen in EBC, we understand, yeah, there's usually a reason for that, even though the numbers stay the same.
But you know, Gary, what's a little puzzling, well, I shouldn't say puzzling to me, maybe it's just for some clarification, because you've announced that you're going to be the representative of the NTA for that seat in the 2025 general elections. What happens in a situation? Is this a final decision? That's what I'm really trying to get.
Right.
Because what happens if, for example, you do go into some sort of accommodation with the UNC, and the UNC has a candidate that they want for St. Joseph?
Well, that's where the accommodation comes in. I will expect the UNC at this time to be looking for candidates for all 41 constituencies, and we will do the same. That doesn't mean that at the end of the day, when it is a candidate is confirmed, it's nomination day. So any number could play between now and then. So if by some chance there's an alliance, which was very successful in the local government election, getting 60,000 more votes than the PNM, which was for every 5 votes, 3 voted for the alliance and 2 voted for the PNM. That is bad licks. And that was a 30% voter turnout. So a 60% voter turnout, you could probably, if you double it by both, you'll get 120,000 difference, which is the exact number of 2010. So the pattern is the same. So if it is that we put a candidate for Samuel Baratari and the UNC has one, and an alliance, we'll look at the best option, we look at the best fit. That's how these things work. And then that person now will step down, will now become the de facto, if you want to call it, campaign person to make sure that all of those votes from that individual, from that party, will now go towards that individual. And so basically it's a runaway. It's a runaway victory. So say, for example, the UNC has their candidate for Samuel Baratari, and we have one, and this decides that they keep their candidate. That person will now make sure those ONR, COP, NTA, NAR type voters will now vote for that UNC candidate, and vice versa in St. Joseph.
No,
I suppose we'll all see how it plays out as the 2025 election gets closer, and those accommodations work or don't.
Exactly. But the concern was with me making that announcement, the panic button was pressed. So it is not by chance. If you all take a look at the editorial in today's Express,
let me just read a piece for you, and we read it earlier on.
Yeah, we did read it earlier on, and yeah.
But for those who may have joined us late, and to be fair, and they said it in the editorial, the Express holds no brief for you. The Express has held your feet to the fire.
Oh yeah.
And I'm putting that mildly. So for the Express to basically come out, I wouldn't say batting for you, but really being very cynical and condemnatory about the press conference held by Ministers Hines and Brown. Is it Monday? On Monday. Yeah, it was the day before yesterday.
Tuesday. Monday was a holiday.
Tuesday. My apologies. And the start of it is the opening salvo to me, which I mean, the start is the mild part, and I'm quoting as National Security Minister Fitzgerald Hines has come to be defined by his wordy and meandering expositions in crime-related issues. On Tuesday, however, Mr. Hines reached new heights of vacuity when he called a news conference to cast blame on former Police Commissioner Gary Griffith for the scandal still unfolding within the SSA. Now, there are several things to unpack in this since the press conference has been broadcast and or published. First of all, is it you who hired Pastor Brown as an SRP?
I'm not too sure. I think so. I believe so, but I know that Pastor Brown was working with previous commissioners before. So I don't know if it is that he was appointed as an SRP and I just renewed it, but he was working closely with the Special Anti-Crime Unit since the Manning era. He was working with other commissioners. They knew him well before me. But also when the request came from the SSA, which is done on a regular basis, it is approved, and then that is why it was renewed by 2 commissioners after me. So that the sad thing about this, to clarify, the SSA has absolutely no involvement with the police service. It is unbelievable that a Minister of National Security will try to blame the Commissioner of Police and the police service because of the so-called bacchanal taking place in the SSA. I was a Minister of National Security. I know SSA reports directly to the Minister. The big concern is what they were trying to say is that the SSA acquired weapons before November last year until Cabinet approved. This is only in a dictatorial country can we believe that politicians can give approval for people to carry firearms. So Keith Rowley and Fitzgerald Hines obviously do not understand.
Put a pause there. It's not I didn't interpret it as a blanket statement. My understanding is that SRPs are also precepted like any other police officer. Would that be correct? Or some SRPs?
Once you're a police officer, you have that authority as serving police officer to carry a firearm, similar to soldiers.
Who would issue a firearm user? Who would authorize the use of an SRP like a Pastor Brown to carry a firearm?
Once you're a police officer, you have automatic. That's the point I'm trying to say, gentlemen. Rowley and Hines do not understand the law. If you're
but to me, the issue is not just a firearm, but the type of weapons that that Pastor Brown would have returned. Would it be normal for an SRP to have high-powered weapons?
It's not all right because they may have SRPs working with Stuart Young's family and his 2 children, and they will have the similar firearms. The SSA equates with the CIA. For anyone to think that the CIA will only have a little handgun like this, it shows our ignorance. Some people need to step further than Tobago and understand national security. You could think that the CIA will be told, well, you're on the CIA, you're not supposed to have those type of weapons. These persons in the SSA go through in volatile areas. They have to have their car parked 2 o'clock in the morning in hotspot areas. Some of them have to be involved in rubbing shoulders with criminal elements in the underworld. They have to be involved as covert operatives. You're telling me that all before November, members of the SSA should not have carried firearms? That is total nonsense. What has happened for decades?
As I said, Gary, the issue is not firearms. Is it normal for them to carry high-powered weapons?
No, well, I just mentioned the fact that what the Prime Minister said is before November they were not supposed to until Cabinet approved it. One Cabinet cannot approve it. You are a politician. You can't approve firearms. 2, all persons from before, if you are SRP or a police officer, you are entitled to carry a firearm. I'm going to answer your question, Paul. I just want to clarify first. 3, for all heads of the SSA before Roger Best and others, they will have a FUL. From the FUL, persons can be trained and precepted similar to security officers in companies, and through precepted you get a FUC to carry a firearm, which is critical. 4, for Fitzgerald Hines to say that I gave authorization for somebody to carry a firearm in the SSA shows how desperate he is. That is like saying that the Chief of Defense Staff gave approval for a constable to sign for a firearm in a Tobago camp. The Chief of Defense Staff has no time to do that. So you think I will have time to go and contact Roger Best or Pastor Brown to say, I want you to take that weapon? Of course not. So the answer lies in that if he's an SRP, and he was able to acquire that type of weapon, then the director of the SSA will explain why it is that he was carrying, because the SRP was seconded to the SSA. And that is the point. So you can't come up. So every single time an SRP signs for a weapon, the Commissioner of Police has to justify the type of weapon the SRP signs for. That is
if you could clarify something, Gary. So is it true to say that members of the SSA need not be SRPs?
Correct. So there are many persons in the SSA that will be civilians. There will be some who are civilians who need a weapon, so they have to be trained, precepted to get an FUEC if the SSA director feels that they need to carry a firearm to protect themselves. SSA as well, they needed these weapons. What I've been told is that these weapons were being used, the SSA was using it to secure the camera, the CCTV installation in volatile areas, and they needed to protect the installation of these cameras. But that's a decision made by the SSA director, because these type of weapons would have been available by to the SSA, because these weapons would have been handed over from SORT to the NOC and the SSA in Kamuto. Nothing to do with my jurisdiction for me to say that I have authority and I am directing. So all of that was a lie. I will have time to waste to call a pastor to tell him to take an automatic weapon. That is total stupidity. If the director of the SSA feels like, look, we are going to a hotspot area 2 o'clock in the morning to put up CCTVs, and we need proper security to ensure that these persons are protected, he will make that judgment call, because he has the armory that has accessibility for those type of weapons. What does that have to do with a commissioner of police? That is unbelievable that anybody, and I tell you, the one radio station, anybody who wants to be any dumber, all you have to do is tune on to 91.9, and you will hear persons trying to justify this.
So I'm just trying to understand it myself. So the head of the SSA himself or herself, they can authorize the release of firearms to people in the SSA, or is it that the SSA personnel have to be precepted first?
Oh yeah, it must be precepted. Yeah, they must. Not every SSA member would be, because many of them will be tech persons who will be in offices, so you don't need to carry a firearm. But there will be some persons who are civilians that, because of their training and what they're doing as covert operatives, they will need a firearm to protect their lives, similar to the CIA. That is common sense. So, but you must be trained now, you must be precepted, and then you will get the FUEC using the FUL of the SSA director. That is one aspect. Then you have the other aspect.
FUC, just a second. The FUC gives the SSA head the authority to grant the FUL to people under their remit.
Not the FUL. The SSA director has a FUL. So if it's similar to what a commissioner does, a man who has a supermarket, the commissioner of police can give, if that person who owns a supermarket has a FUL and he wants to have private security officers just for his company, it's like similar to estate constables, then he will then send a list to the commissioner. They must be properly trained, vetted, scrutinized, similar to a security guard and amalgamated or whatever who wants a firearm. They can now get an FUEC under the FUL of the owner of the supermarket. So you could do it for the owner of a supermarket and you wouldn't do it for the SSA. So these individuals who require the firearms get it like that. Other persons may be serving defense force and police officers, similar to Pastor Brown. They would not need that because they are serving police officers or the members of the defense force. Then they are retired. That will also get, but if you're retired, you must have a FUEC. You must be to be precepted to have access to a firearm.
Now, by my understanding, I'm going to go back to the issue of the differentiation of the types of weapons that SRPs or any officer can or cannot have access to. And the November cabinet situation that Minister Hines referenced in terms of potentially changing the law, is there a difference? And I'm asking because I don't know, in the types of weapons, because there's a big difference between a handgun and an AR-15 assault rifle. Obviously, you're militarily trained, so you know that. Is it that any officer, once you're a part of the police service or an SRP, does have access to high-powered assault weapons?
Well, it depends on where the person is. I'll give an example, like Stuart Young. If he and his family want to be secured, you could say, well, why are you carrying that? But if the SRP, and if the person may be an SRP, if he is working under the Minister of National Security, he may contact the DCP and get it signed at the police headquarters. So it's all based on who gives the authorization. It certainly wasn't me. So for Hines to mislead the country to say that I gave authorization for this man to take, I know nothing about this. How could I know? So what happens is you have units in the police marine branch, and there are SRPs in the police marine branch, and they will sign for an automatic weapon if they're going in for a patrol 2 o'clock in the morning close to the Caroni Swamp. It's all based on the circumstance. You need, however, you need justification. If you're SRP that you're just an office clerk, and you're an office clerk, for example, in the finance department.
But I would imagine some level of authorization at some level would come into that play in terms of authorizing a high-powered weapon. and it's not just somebody signed for it as opposed to what would they consider normal.
And further to what Paul is asking, there isn't authorization written.
No, right. So what happens, and that's what I was trying to state.
It's your fact of whether.
That's what I'm trying to state. So, for example, if you're SRP in the finance department in the police admin building, on what grounds you're signing for an assault weapon, and if so, who would have given you the authorization? You will always have there must be justification. You can't say because I'm an SRP, it automatically gives me the right to sign for that.
And somebody has to authorize it.
Correct, and not the commissioner. And
what would that be? What level would that be?
Well, that is where the SSA needs to answer. They will need to answer to justify why it is that. And again, like SWOT, for example, SORT, they were persons who were SRPs. Are you saying that if they were going in volatile areas, dealing with hotspot areas, going after criminal elements in areas, they would carry an assault weapon because it's justified, because the man is going, he is going to be up against heavy firepower. That is
we're just questioning that. We're trying to ascertain the authorization level.
No, I'm trying to give you an example. So if an SRP or whoever signs for it, there's justification because SWOT has their armory. SSA has their own armory that they got that was handed over through the PNM government that gave all of these weapons to the SSA. And that's what Hines is not stating. So all of these weapons, instead of coming back under the threshold of to be owned by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service Armory, it remained in Komuto under the control of the SSA. And that the National Operations Center, they put it under the SSA. So it is the PNM government that gave all of these weapons to the SSA. The PNM government took the NOC that was my brainchild and put it under the SSA. That's why SSA moved to Knowsley. Knowsley is not supposed to have been for the SSA. Knowsley was the operational command center for any natural or man-made disaster. So if that army is there, if that army is there under the control of the SSA, there will be, whether it's the SSA director, whether it's the deputy director, whether it's the armorer, somebody will have to account for why they gave the pastor those type of weapons. But don't say a commissioner of police, I am the person who gave the approval. That is a lie.
One of the issues that came up, of course, is that the ministers went back to the Andrew Barrett situation and quoted from a Newsday article. And you have denied in the last couple of days or weeks that you said that Belcon and Morris died because they fell off a chair. Did you? Because that was a prevalently carried story. Did you or did you not say that?
Yeah, it was a lie. So let me explain quickly. This is exactly how I stated it. I said the media asked for an immediate response, and again, being the most accessible public servant in this country probably ever had, I made myself accessible. So I said there was an initial report. 2 individuals were held. They were and there was some altercation because police officers were also injured. Immediately, what they got information from the family. The family stated that these individuals, usually when they will rape women or whatever, for 24 hours, sometimes they will put them and have them tied up in the forest. So the SWAT knew that in 24 hours, if they couldn't find Andrea, she will die. Not doing that, she was killed already. So there was no need. There was definitely no need for them to want to cause permanent damage to these individuals. Without the information from these individuals, they thought that she will die. They took them to the hospital. When they took them to the hospital, they immediately directed for a bed to be provided. The individual said he did not want a bed because he was fine. So he said he just wanted a chair to sit on. He then collapsed. When he collapsed, the doctors immediately checked him, and a few hours later he died. That is like saying Paul Richards got up this morning, he went to the supermarket, bought a Coke, and then he got in a car accident. So Gary Griffith is saying because Paul Richards bought a Coke, he got in a car accident. At no time did I ever say he died because he fell off a chair. That was a lie. I said that while seated, he collapsed, and then when he collapsed, the doctors checked to see what was happening. At no time did I ever state that. So the Prime Minister in a public meeting said that he's a liar. I never said that. But it'll keep coming up, it'll keep coming up in the 91.
I'm going to play a clip from a different media house that was aired during the press conference. It kind of raised my eyebrow too when I saw it earlier on social media, which are statements that are coming from you.
They to come and ask me for an update on an investigation, and I would have told him where to get off. That is 1. 2, I would love to do a polygraph test myself and Keith Robbie to show that he's a blatant liar. Show where it is that I would have ever told you that persons died because they fell off a chair. That is a blatant lie. 3, he is trying to allude, and no, this is a matter that took place 4 or 5 years ago, and he keeps holding on to that one point. But let's go back to what this is about. These are 2 men who were involved in the killing of Andrea Barrett. They will never be able to kill again. They will never hurt another female again. And these were 2 men that were involved in over 60 other charges for rape, sexual offenses for women. And that is what Keith Rowley continues to speak about. So because these 2 persons died at the hands of the police, he keeps trying to put me as if I am to blame for that situation. When, by the way...
Right. So I have to admit, when I heard that, it kind of...
Yeah, I heard it yesterday.
It gave me pause for concern. Let me explain why.
And actually, Paul, if you had a loved one...
Let me propose give you proposition first. I know you're ready to jump out. You are a past commissioner of police. You understand the law. Were those 2 gentlemen charged at any time?
No, neither was sought. But why didn't say the same thing?
But I'm asking if they were charged. Gary.
Yeah.
They were never charged, by my understanding. If they were charged, correct me, right?
They were charged on 60 occasions for rape.
Right. They were charged. Were they convicted? And I'm not saying that they may not have been culpable. I'm saying they were never convicted.
I know that. That's what. But they were charged. You actually were charged on over 60.
Right. So they were under very, very serious charges. And in the clip you said they died at the hands of police. You sounded very definitive there.
Yeah, they died in police custody. Yes.
Right. It sounds very flippant just to say to me that they will never rape again. They will never kill again. Obviously, because they're now dead. But it sounds like almost like and you could correct me if I'm wrong, you didn't seem to have a concern about the justice process that should have been involved.
Right.
How do you explain that? Because it's because you're past commissioner of police, you operated under the law.
What is the justice process you're speaking about? Because no person has been charged for causing them grievous bodily harm. So there's a saying, Paul, you can't be half pregnant. So what is the justice process that you're speaking about? No one has. So if you say that they have not been found guilty for anything as yet, neither has any officer from SWAT. So where's this all about then? So you can't be half pregnant.
I think what Paul is.
You have no concern that they died in the hands of police. I think
Paul is raising the issue of the innocent until proven guilty by court of law.
But it's the same
whether your statement that they will never kill again. In other words,
right? I'm coming to that. But yeah. I just want to remind you all. I want you all to say the same thing about SWAT, because no person has been found guilty, charged, or even arrested for the deaths of these 2 individuals.
But it's not an equal comparison because the SWAT officers are not dead.
No, so only if you die, then justice must be.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. But you're making false comparisons.
No, but you know why? Because you interrupted me 3 times without allowing me to answer the question.
Go ahead.
Is the same way that when the Minister of Foreign Affairs had the audacity to mislead the country to state because of the gross violations of human, how do the US know that or say that if nobody has yet even been arrested? Because you don't know if it was SWAT, you don't know if it was officers from the Arima station because they were there, you don't know if it was some other incident, you do not know. What we know is that they were in police custody, but you automatically label SWAT as a demonistic party, a body, when, by the way, the front page of today's newspaper, based on that same premise, I would expect the US to now shut down all funding because of what's in the front page of today's Guardian with the prisoner being killed. Why don't they say they're going to shut down the prison service? Why don't they blame the prison commissioner for what took place with the prisoner? It shows the double standard. We've had 100 other police killings after this incident, 33 odd per annum. Why don't you blame McDonald Jacob or Earl Christopher? Why don't we shut down the Coast Guard because of the incident that took place with the officers who died, with the persons who died under Coast Guard? But point being is that this is all politically manufactured. Now, going to your question, Paul, what I will state is that when I stated that, I am speaking on behalf of the hurt and pain that the vast majority of this country get, and I challenge any of the 3 of you all, had that been your daughter, your sister, and this happened, would you shed a tear? All that you will say is we know for sure that what about these 60 families who have suffered and been traumatized because we have a justice system that is so flawed that men could rape and commit sexual offenses to women, and 60 occasions you will get bail and come back out. That should be the concern. So we have these families who are traumatized every time these men come out in public. When these men died, you tell the family of these 16 women, shed a tear. What I'm saying is that we know now that they will never commit such acts, and that is fact, unless it is that they're part of the Walking Dead TV series.
Can I respond now? I don't want to interrupt you again.
Yeah, go ahead.
Now, I share your concern about the gentleman, the person who died with the autopsy proved that he died from blunt force trauma. But to me, you don't have to choose a side. You can be deeply concerned and disturbed by the trauma that the families have, something from the 60 charges and the allegations and charges coming from Belcon and Morris. You can do that. But you can equally be concerned about men who die while in police custody.
Not
you don't have to
equally, not equally. You can't say equally. No way.
You don't. You can't tell me. Take what the word equally. Take what the word equally. You can also be concerned that there is a process, a due process for justice to take place. Even when people are under serious charges, you can be concerned about both. Maybe not equally, but you can. So to pit one against the other to me is unproductive.
But Paul is not picking one against. I never said there's a need to cause a concern. I never said it's something we should celebrate. What I said is that they will never harm again. And that becomes a concern. It's amazing. So there's a concern about that, rightly so. But what about the concern of the 60 women who have been raped and sexually molested by these individuals?
Nobody diminished that concern.
Yes, it has never once been stated by Heinz. It has never once been stated by yourself. Why are we showing the concern?
That is not true. That is not true. We speak about the concern. I raise protection of women in parliament.
Okay, I think the issue, Gary, is that these men were never convicted. So in the sphere of law and how our law is set up, they're still innocent until proven guilty. So the issue of rapes and stuff before that you're alluding to are all allegations in how the law sees it.
Yeah, and I think what Paul is trying to... But we know that because they weren't convicted. Again, they will never...
Because they weren't convicted. But because that's how the system of justice works in the country.
But what is wrong with stating that they will never be able to harm anybody else again?
Well, because you are now bypassing the issue of innocent until proven guilty and allegations.
What I'm stating is that these people have died.
The statement is that you presumed that they are guilty and they will never be able to do guilty things again.
Yeah, that is my take on it.
Which is fine. Which is a fine opinion of a regular citizen, which you now are. But I think what Paul is trying to stress, and Paul could correct me if I'm wrong, is that as a former commissioner of police, don't you think there is a higher burden of duty on you?
No, wrong. If I was a commissioner of police,
articulate issues like that.
If I was a commissioner of police, I'm not a commissioner of police, and I am a politician now. I am a politician, and I am seeing the hurt, the pain of two citizens all over the country. And what we get are politicians in government and radio stations always looking after the rights of criminal elements more than the rights of these people who suffer in this country. And we are doing a whole show because two persons with 60 different charges for rape and whatever, we're like, oh God, Gary said they shouldn't kill again, they won't kill again. But we never put in the trauma of these 60 women who said, listen, my daughter has been raped and this man get back out on bail. There's never a show to deal with that. And that is why I, as a politician, I am going to fight for the rights of law-abiding citizens, because this country has been tilted so much that all we do is focus on the rights of criminal elements. Because we're saying they are right, it is their right. But look at the same thing with SWOT. Nobody in SWOT has been arrested. Nobody has been charged. Yet you have politicians stating gross violations. And you know what? Why I think the US would not shut down the prison service? They wouldn't shut down Coast Guard, the 100 other police killings. It is not because of this situation. It is because of basic petty politics by the PNM. They went to the US and they gave them misinformation. The US wouldn't shut down SWOT because of one incident that you all, by just admitted. You can't demonize SWOT when up to now not one person has been charged. Where's the natural justice there? Where's the law there? So you can't be half pregnant to speak about Belcon and the other guy, But in short, not one person has been charged.
If you agree with, if you listen to us in the week, we raised questions about the press conference and the reason for the press conferences. So I don't know if you would have seen the show earlier, and as I said, you can have concerns about several things at the same time, as you said, not equally. And to say that radio shows have not raised and media houses have not raised the issues of the families who underwent trauma. We interviewed Andrew Barrett's father. We went and sought him out and interviewed him about what he went through and other family members. So I can't speak for the media house.
But Paul, I'm speaking on behalf of those families because they are not shedding a tear and they know to themselves that their daughter can now walk out on the streets without worrying about being killed because of retaliation by persons who may have raped her and got easy access to bail. I'm speaking on behalf of those persons.
Were you surprised to hear that you were on the investigation? You were on the probe?
No, I'm not on the investigation and probe. That's a lie.
The press conference also revealed that.
Was that Paul? Sorry. Paul?
Go ahead. We had a glitch there. So
no,
as far as you know, you're not in the investigation.
No, I'm not. It's a lie. To start with, gentlemen.
No, I was saying part of it was you.
Yeah, so okay. So start with Fitzgerald Hines is a liar. One, a politician can't know that who's under investigation. That's a police matter. Unless, of course, you have now influenced the police and there are rogue police officers giving you information. So you as a Minister of National Security, if you say that, it means you are affiliating yourself with rogue police officers, one, or two, you are bullying yourself to get information of matters that are under investigation. Whichever, you should resign as a minister, because what he has just stated, that he's aware of people who are under investigation by the police. How would you know that? Unless you're either controlling the police or you're manipulating them. So you should immediately be removed as a minister based on that. That's one. Two, 3 years I have left as Commissioner of Police. I have never been questioned on anything. So how could I be under investigation for some things 3 years ago and up to now I've never been in question? So Fitzgerald Hines, you're a liar.
I was going to ask that because if you're on the investigation and this related to that, there should have been some sort of somebody questioning you or quoting you to into
yeah, in fact, your co-host is in court. I have about 4 matters with her. She actually claimed that I'm under investigation and she will go to court on a witness stand and explain, please show me where I'm under any investigation. And she better come forward and show it, or there'll be more money again she has to pay and more apologies.
What co-host are you talking about? We only have four male co-hosts here.
Well, the other male co-host female co-host you all had before.
Or the previous one?
Yes.
In closing, what would be, he said our co-host, we have a female co-host that I know about. We had a previous female co-host. In closing, what would you like to share with the audience?
That again, it was very unfortunate that 2 government ministers would mislead a country to that extent to spend 90 minutes to speak about Gary Griffith. There was not one plan, one policy, nothing. So you do a media conference as a Minister of National Security. And Amy Brown, you know, the Express editorial just speaks about Hines. Amy Brown has been a total failure. You're a Minister of Finance. I remember Stuart Rambachan, every single week was a bilateral agreement with some country to assist in improving security, tourism, the development of this country. Amy Brown has done nothing. And then you have a press conference with the Minister of National Security on security. And instead of you stating, we found a bilateral agreement with the US to have the NYPD work with the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, or we're going to get the London Metropolitan Police to assist us in technology. You sit down there because you get instructions from Ireland to battle Gary Griffith and speak about something 3 years ago. And again, I want to re-emphasize the Trinidad and Tobago. If that was the case, that the US did it specifically on that one isolated incident, there have been over 100 police killings after. You have seen the MOVA shootings. How come the US didn't have concerns? And this involved the GB, the IATF, MOPS, Northern Division. And I'm not to say that you're shutting them down. You don't need to. These things, when these things happen, the officers must be investigated. And if found culpable, no one is above the law, you'll be charged. But to say that the US did it just because of that one incident, that is a lie. Coast Guard, there were persons killed at the hands of Coast Guard. Look at the front page of today's Guardian. Our media will never challenge Amy Brown and say, but if the US did it based on this, why not shutting down the prison service? Why not blaming the prisons commissioner? Why it is the US didn't shut down the IATF and MOPS based on these other police killings? They would not ask Amy Brown that because they are afraid to be bullied by these bullies. And all I'm saying to the country, let us focus on the issues. Do not be distracted. This was all done because one statement was made. Gary Griffith is going up for St. Joseph.
Mr. Griffith, thank you so much for being with us.
Yep.
My pleasure. Take care.
You all have a great day. It's 8:01. Please be safe out there.
Mm-hmm.
And of course,
the chat hot. The chat hot.
We live in a country where, of course, you need to laugh. And theater is on next week, Saturday and Sunday. Love is a Walk at Queen's Hall, Saturday at 8:30, Sunday at 6:30. Of course, tickets are available at all our usual outlets. You can check RSRR Productions theater page for all of that information on social media. And of course, tickets are also available at Queen's Hall from 12 noon to 6 p.m. daily. You can get your tickets at Queen's Hall. We're looking forward to the show. It'll be next week, Saturday and Sunday, the 13th and 14th. And trust me, it's a great de-stressor and stress reliever in terms of coming to a show like Love is a Walk. Have a fantastic day, whatever you do. And remember to smile and laugh. It is great for your health.
All right, gentlemen, we chat with you bright and early. Come tomorrow morning. We'll be Friday.